The sun beat gently over Nsud, casting golden rays upon the rust-colored soil that stretched from one end of the village to the other. Children played naked in the streets, their laughter echoing through the mud houses. The smell of roasted corn, pepper soup, and sweat lingered in the air. It was a normal day, but for Obianuju, every day came with a storm inside her. She rose before the cock crowed, tying her faded wrapper tightly around her slim waist, eyes swollen from sleepless nights. Her husband, Ikena, lay flat on his back, snoring loudly with dried saliva crusted on the edge of his mouth. He had not lifted a finger in 3 months, ever since he lost his job at the local furniture shop in Enugu town. Obianuju didn't speak. She never did anymore. She had learned that silence was better than nagging a man who had willingly surrendered to laziness. She tiptoed around the room so she wouldn't wake him up. Ezin, their 7-year-old daughter, sat on a wooden stool outside, plaiting the hair of her doll, unaware that her mother carried the weight of a broken marriage and a suffering family. Ezin, Engwa Bia, we need to go, Obianuju said softly. They wheeled the barrow down the dusty path, Obianuju's pot of hot jollof rice and mwamwa still steaming. Waiting under the mango tree was her friend, Masoma, a short and vibrant woman who sold fresh fruits from her tray. Masoma had always been her strength. Uju, you day try, Masoma sighed. This year I canna get spirit, no day shame? Obianuju forced a smile. Nwanyem, leave am for God. The two friends pushed their goods together from Nsud into town. They shouted in unison as they walked. Hot jollof rice with chicken, sweet mango, orange way go melt for your mouth. They passed motor parks, mechanic workshops, and busy junctions. The sun grew hotter, and the tiredness settled into their bones like cold water on cloth. But one thing made Obianuju stop in her tracks every day, the madman near the old Catholic church. He was always there, dirty, his hair long and knotted like twisted rope, his clothes torn and hanging loosely on him. He never spoke, never moved much. But there was something in his eyes, something that didn't look completely mad. Uju, leave that man, oh, Masoma always warned. Mad people fit wound you. But Obianuju's heart was different. She would kneel beside him, open her cooler, and gently place a spoonful of rice and a sachet of water in front of him. Sometimes he didn't touch it until she left. Other times, he ate immediately like someone who had been starving for days. Each day, she saw more of him, not just his madness, but his silence. One day, she noticed something strange. The man was staring straight at her pot of rice, not like a madman, but like someone trying to remember who he was. That night, Ikena came home late. The stench of alcohol followed him like a second skin. His shirt was half unbuttoned, and he staggered into their compound with careless feet. Where's my food? He growled. Obianuju, tired and dusty, stood up and served him in silence. He devoured it without a thank you, then belched and shouted, next time, add more meat. You think I'm a beggar? No apology, no gratitude, nothing. She looked at him long and hard, but didn't speak. Later that night, he turned his back to her in bed. That had become normal too. The next day, she passed the madman again. Something tugged at her soul. Today, she didn't just drop food. She knelt and whispered, who are you really? The man looked at her, blinked twice, and for the first time in all those weeks, he spoke. I don't know. She froze. Masoma, who had been watching from behind, gasped. Obianuju. The man talk. The village winds carried the story as whispers that danced from ear to ear. Obianuju made a decision. That evening, she returned to the madman with a small wrapper and a warm bowl of soup. She touched his shoulder gently. Come, go sleep outside tonight. And he followed her. A stranger with no name. A madman who had spoken. A storm was coming. But so was the fire that would cleanse her pain. Night had fallen on Nsud, and the stars blinked silently above the rustling palm trees. Crickets sang their usual lullabies, frogs croaked from nearby ponds. And in one corner of the village, Obianuju was sitting beside a man whose name she didn't even know, watching him eat as though he hadn't had a warm meal in years. The madman, as the townspeople called him, wasn't exactly mad anymore. He was quiet, thoughtful, and surprisingly obedient. His eyes still carried a fog, like memories buried deep beneath trauma and pain, but his mannerisms were calm. Each night that passed, Obianuju's fear of him melted more and more. Drink more soup, she urged, pushing the bowl closer. He obeyed, nodding slowly, his eyes briefly meeting hers. Thank you, he said, barely above a whisper. Her daughter, Ezen, peeked from behind the curtain of their single room. At first, she was afraid, but her mother's calmness reassured her. Mama, is he our uncle? She asked innocently. Obianuju smiled sadly. No, Inani. He's just someone that needs help. And just like that, the man became part of their lives. The next morning, Ikena, her husband, was nowhere to be found. For the past week, he had left home before dawn and returned long after midnight, drunk, sweaty, and smelling of cheap perfume. Obianuju no longer bothered to ask questions. She knew, deep down, that something was happening. Something shameful. But where would she start? She had a daughter to feed, a stranger to help, a business to run. She packed her jollof rice into her wheelbarrow. The man, still unnamed, stood outside, already waiting to follow her. Masoma go fear this one, oh, she chuckled to herself. As they approached the town, Masoma spotted them and froze. Uju, Baiko, are you mad? She asked, dropping her fruit tray in disbelief. You carry him come market? He's not mad, Masoma. Obianuju replied gently. I've been watching him. He just lost himself. He day try remember who he be. Masoma hissed. Even if he no day mad again, and said people go talk. You day feed him, carry him follow you waka. What if Ikena sees him? Obianuju's eyes hardened. If Ikena still cares, he for day house. He doesn't ask about me. He doesn't ask about Ezen. He doesn't even know there's a stranger in our house. Masoma stared at her friend for a long time. Then she sighed. Now you get your house. Now you get your walla. Just be careful. They began hawking again, shouting their food and fruit chants. Strangely, with the new man beside her, customers flocked. Some said it was because of pity, others because they were curious. Either way, business boomed. The man, still quiet, often helped her push the barrow. He carried trays, washed her things, and even learned to shout. Hot riso. Come by, come chop. Children giggled at him. Market women gossiped. But Obianuju didn't mind. He was useful, respectful, present. Meanwhile, across town, Ikena's life had changed. After weeks of pretending to look for a job, he had stumbled upon luck. Or rather, it had stumbled upon him. One afternoon, while loitering near a plaza, he had helped an elderly woman, Madame Veronica, the CEO of a construction firm, pick up her fallen shopping bags. She was rich, powerful, and bored with her life. Something about Ikena's rugged charm amused her. She offered him a cleaning job in her office. Within weeks, he became her personal driver. But it didn't end there. Madame Veronica took him shopping, bought him new suits, paid for a new phone, even gave him a car, a black Lexus Jeep. The villagers were stunned. Ikena don hammer, they whispered. Na Yahoo. Na ritual. Obianuju heard the rumors and remained quiet. She watched her husband drive past their compound, windows rolled up, sunglasses dark like his conscience. He never stopped, never asked about his daughter, never looked at her again. Then, one evening, it all shattered. Obianuju returned home with her barrow, Ezen holding her wrapper and the strange man walking behind. They were tired but happy. A white envelope sat on the stool outside their door. It had Ikena's name on it. She opened it. Divorce papers. The ground beneath her felt like it vanished. Her hands trembled as she read the short, cold message. I am no longer interested in this marriage. You can pack out. The house is mine. Ikena. No explanation. No conversation. Just rejection. That same night, Ikena came back with policemen. They forced her out. Her. His wife. The woman who sold rice to keep their family alive. She cried. Masoma cried. Even the stranger stood still, anger burning in his eyes. They slept outside that night, under a mango tree, her daughter curled beside her, wrapped in old wrappers. But the next morning, she got up. Let's go. We still have food to sell. The three of them, Obianuju, Ezen, and the unnamed man, continued their journey. House or no house, she would not bow. The village watched her with mixed feelings, pity, shame, admiration. Weeks passed. They moved into an abandoned kiosk near the town market. Masoma helped them fix it with old zincs and mats. It leaked when it rained, but it was shelter. The man began to speak more. I remember my name. Chitty, he whispered one day while peeling yam. She turned to him, shocked. Chitty, yes. I was in a car accident. I was going for a wedding. I think my family thought I died. Obianuju stared at him, heart pounding. Was this really happening? He continued. I see flashes of a mother, brothers, a house with many cars, but everything's blurry. Then, one fateful market day, a black Prado SUV pulled over. 3 well-dressed men stepped out, stared at Chitty, and screamed. Chitty! He froze, eyes wide. Then tears poured down his cheeks. My brothers, he whispered. They rushed to him, hugged him, kissed him, wept over him. The market stopped. Obianuju stood still, her lips parted. He turned to her. These are my people. They've been looking for me. I was declared dead. Then, he said the words that broke her. But I found life with you. That night, he promised he would return. I'll come back for you in Ezen. I swear it. Obianuju cried, heart torn between happiness and fear. He left the next morning with his family. And Ikenna? Madame Veronica had discovered he had been secretly dating younger women. She kicked him out without warning. His phone lines were blocked. His clothes thrown into the street. Homeless and broke, he returned in Sud. His pride dragged him to Obianuju's kiosk. Uju, I'm sorry. I was confused. I made mistakes. Please, let's start again. She stared at him, then laughed, coldly. Ikenna, the only thing I regret is that I ever loved you. She pointed away. Go, and don't ever come near me or my daughter again. A month later, Chitty returned. In a convoy, he wore a fine native attire, smelled of expensive cologne, and behind him was a bus filled with kitchen equipment, plates, pots, freezers. He hugged Obianuju tightly. Let's go to the city. You will never hawk on your head again. They moved. He opened a restaurant for her, named it Uju's Delight. Obianuju became the queen of her own kitchen. Her jollof rice sold out daily. Customers waited in lines. Ezen went to a fine school. And Chitty? He proposed. She didn't rush, but she smiled. Life had turned around. It was a chilly morning in Enugu City, and a light fog clung gently to the rooftops like reluctant visitors. The city hummed softly with life, cars zooming, people hurrying, the aroma of roadside akara mixing with the exhaust of passing kiki. In the middle of that hustle, standing proudly on a tiled corner by a busy T-junction, was a new, glistening signboard painted in deep gold. Uju's Delight, home of authentic village taste. Inside the restaurant, the sound of boiling pots, clanging pans, and laughter filled the air. Waiters in matching Ankara uniforms darted around, carrying steaming plates of jollof rice, yam porridge, spicy goat meat, and quobi. The counters were clean. The tiled floor sparkled. The smell, dear heavens, the smell, was enough to make passers-by stop in their tracks. Behind the counter stood Obianuju, wearing a fine wrapper and a white chef's coat embroidered with her name. Her hair was neatly packed, and her smile. Oh, that smile. It stretched from her soul to her skin. She had become respected, admired, and loved. By her side stood Ezen, now dressed in a neat school uniform, giggling as she helped serve fresh zobo to customers. And there, seated near the window, watching it all with pride, was Chitty, clean-shaven, handsome, and every inch the man he once was. It had been 4 months since they left Sud. 4 months since Chitty had returned to take her and her daughter away from the ruins of Betrayal. His family had welcomed her with open arms, his mother especially, a strong woman who knelt and thanked her for bringing my son back from the land of the dead. I don't know what you did, she had cried, but you gave me my Chitty back. From today, you are my daughter too. They lived in a flat Chitty's brother had arranged for them in the heart of the city, comfortably furnished with all the things Obianuju never dreamed of owning. Every evening, the family would eat together. Ezen had her own room, with pink walls and stuffed animals. She cried the first night, not because she was sad, but because she had never slept on a mattress before. But success is never without shadows. One Saturday afternoon, just as they were closing the restaurant for the day, Chitty received a call. His face darkened. He hung up without saying a word. What is it? Obianuju asked, wiping her hands. Chitty hesitated, then sighed. That was one of my cousins. Someone from your past is looking for you. Obianuju blinked. Who? He looked up slowly. Ikenna. The name fell like a hammer. For a moment, the room grew cold. Chitty continued. He's been sleeping at the back of the old post office in Sud. Word is that he's been begging to see you. Obianuju felt her stomach twist. Not from fear, Not from love, but from a mixture of sadness and disgust. I don't want to see him, she said quietly. Chitty nodded. I'll make sure he doesn't come near here. But fate is tricky. 2 weeks later, just as the restaurant was buzzing with Sunday customers, a commotion broke out near the entrance. Madam, one man day outside day shout your name, oh, a waitress cried. Obianuju rushed to the door and froze. It was Ikena. He looked nothing like the man who once walked past her with sunglasses and car keys swinging like pride. His clothes were torn, beard wild, and eyes bloodshot. He knelt by the road, arms wide, tears running down his dirty face. Obianuju, Baiko, forgive me. I have nothing. I am dying. The entire street turned to look. Chitty came out immediately. He stood beside Obianuju, firm and quiet. Ikena, she said slowly, voice firm. Why are you here? I made a mistake. That woman used me and dumped me. I have nothing. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Please, just a second chance. Even if it's just to sweep this place. Let me do anything. Obianuju looked at him. And then, she said the words that shocked everyone watching. You said I was nothing. You forgot your daughter. You chased us out like animals. I begged you once, but you were too proud. Now it's your turn to beg, and I will not give you what you denied me. She turned to go back in, but then stopped. I'm not wicked, Ikena. There's food in that nylon bag there. Eat it and go. But don't ever come here again. And with that, she walked back in, shoulders straight, dignity intact. Ikena wept like a child, held the food bag, and crawled away. The crowd dispersed slowly, whispering, Uju too strong, but she get hard. As days passed, business boomed. They got a second branch. A popular food blogger reviewed her food and called her queen of authentic flavor. Orders flooded in. Events, contracts, catering for offices. One day, a journalist came to do a feature on her success. How did it all start, she asked. Obianuju smiled. I was selling food on my head with my friend. My husband abandoned me. I found a man by the road and fed him every day. That man turned out to be a prince in disguise. The article went viral. Chitty eventually proposed officially, with a gold ring in the middle of a plate of fried rice. Ezen screamed, Say yes, mama. She did. The traditional wedding was a celebration that shook and stood. The same villagers who once mocked her danced and ate until they couldn't stand. Even Misoma came, dressed like a queen herself, proud of the journey they'd both survived. Obianuju now wore expensive wrappers, but her heart was the same, kind, humble, and wise. At the reception, Chitty whispered into her ear, You saved me when you had nothing. Now I'll spend the rest of my life giving you everything. She leaned into him, eyes full. I don't want everything, she said softly. I just want peace, love, and food to cook. 2 years later, the rains had returned to Enugu, pouring over the city like cleansing tears from the sky. The thunder rolled in deep roars, shaking roofs and trees alike, and yet inside Uju's delight, warmth reigned. The restaurant had grown into a franchise. 3 branches now carried the name, all buzzing with customers, nurses from hospitals, bankers on lunch breaks, mechanics seeking solace in pepper soup, and even dignitaries who came for the oath and sala they swore tasted like their mothers. Obianuju, now popularly known as Madame Uju, wore Ankara gowns custom-made by Lagos designers. Her daughter Ezen was in JSS 3, already speaking with polished grammar and dreaming of becoming a chef like her mother, or maybe a TV presenter, depending on her mood. As for Chitty, he had become not just her husband, but her partner in every sense. He handled business registrations, accounts, logistics, and occasionally, he still insisted on serving plates of food when things got too busy. Life had become good, soft, sweet, but peace, like fragile china, always had cracks waiting to stretch. It began with a message, an envelope. Chitty received it during a delivery run. The handwriting was too familiar, slanted, feminine. Inside were 2 photographs. One was of Chitty holding a woman in a hotel room. The second was worse. It showed a young boy, around 6 years old, with eyes that mirrored his. Attached was a sticky note. This is your son. I want to talk. Before I talk to your wife. No signature. No phone number. Just a time and a place. Hotel Clementine, room 302. Friday, 3 p.m. Chitty's heart thudded in his chest. He drove to the restaurant, but couldn't focus. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't look Obianuju in the eye. She noticed immediately. My husband. Are you okay? She asked gently as they prepared a goosey soup in the kitchen. He smiled weakly. Just tired, my love. Long day. That Friday, Chitty went to the hotel. Room 302. The woman who opened the door was someone from his past, a one-night mistake made during the early days when he had first returned home after recovering from his amnesia. Her name was Ifioma, a receptionist who had comforted him in his confusion. She held the child's hand. I didn't want to bother you, she said flatly. But your son is now in school, and he needs more than I can give. Chitty was frozen. Why now, he asked. Because his school fees are choking me. And I heard your name on the radio, that your wife owns restaurants. He swallowed hard. I need you to take responsibility, she said, or your wife will know. That evening, he didn't return home early. Obianuju waited, worried. When he arrived, he looked older, like the past 2 years had been peeled off him in a single afternoon. Are you hiding something from me, Chitty? She asked quietly. He paused. The room fell into a still silence. Then he nodded. Yes. The truth came out in broken breaths. He told her about the photos, the woman, the child. And when he finished, he knelt down and said, I didn't know. I swear to you, I was broken when it happened. But I will understand if you ask me to leave. Obianuju stood in silence for a long time. The kind of silence that comes before a storm or a healing. Then she walked into the bedroom and shut the door. For 2 days, she didn't speak to him. She cooked. She smiled at customers. She helped Ezen with homework. But Chitty knew she was hurt. On the 3rd night, she came out holding an envelope. I saw the boy, she said calmly. Chitty looked up, confused. I went to the hotel myself. I spoke to the mother. I spoke to the boy. He is yours. He lowered his head in shame. But Chitty, I will not chase you away. His head shot up. You told me the truth. That counts for something. You didn't try to lie. You didn't hide. That woman is not the problem. But I must protect my peace. So here's what we'll do. She handed him the envelope. These are transfer documents. Open a savings account in that boy's name. Take care of him. But you will never bring his mother into my space. And I will never be disrespected in my own house. He nodded like a penitent child. And Chitty, don't ever give me a reason to doubt you again. He broke into tears and fell at her feet. In the months that followed, things calmed. Obianuju never brought up the issue again. She treated the boy with kindness, but from a safe distance. Chitty kept to his word. The business expanded. A Lagos investor contacted them to franchise Uju's Delight nationwide. A cooking show invited Obianuju to feature. She went to Abuja for the first time in her life, by flight. One day, as they sat on their balcony, watching the sunset over Enugu, Ezen curled beside her mother and asked, Mummy, how did you become so strong? Obianuju looked at her and smiled. My strength came from pain, from hunger, from sleeping under mango trees, from carrying food on my head while my husband dined in air-conditioned cars, from being chased away and learning how to chase away people who didn't deserve me. Ezen blinked. And what's the biggest lesson you've learned? Obianuju took a deep breath. That no matter how dark the fire burns inside your house, you can always rebuild. If your hands are clean and your heart stays kind.